Since 2013, the US military, they train 4 skills into their troops.
It's not possible.
No, it's necessary.
Stretch out with your feelings.
How are you guys planning on beating that? Together. We'll lose. And we'll do that together too.
The military is known for developing leaders. And when I've worked with former military folks, they are very good at leadership. So what does the military do to train people for leadership? One of the things that the United States military prizes is adaptability. It is being able to read the situation and adjust according to the situation. Think about you're in the middle of a battle. You need to know what is going on, where people are, and how to move troops to be able to effectively do combat. If you create a story in your head of where enemy combatants are or what they're doing, then you're reacting to a story. You're not reacting to reality. So think about the person that's in their head constantly building sandcastles and dreams and hopes and aspirations. They're not on the ground. They're not in touch with the reality. Reality exists in the body. The body has a better capability to give us information than just our ideas about how it should be. So the physicality of the body helps us because our senses are intrinsically in our body. So here's a personal example. The last few weeks, I have been dealing with mice in my apartment. I've had an infestation of mice. I'm going after the mice and trying to trap them and hunt them down. Sometimes it's gotten super primal. I quickly realized that they're too fast for me to see with my eyes. So there was a point where I had a mouse cornered and I was trying to kind of get it with a broom, and I was trying to use my eyes to figure out how to hit. And then at some point I realized I was way better with my ears. A moment in Star Wars where I put the shield over my head and I closed my eyes and I felt with the Force, and I used my hearing and my ears to hear where this thing was and then use it to actually strike out. And with my ears, I was able to hit the mouse.
Shield down, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight?
Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them.
We have different senses that help us really stretch into the situation
Stretch out with your feelings.
and tune us into the environment way better than just our eyes or our thoughts. If you're going based off of where you think the mice should be, you're never going to hit it. You need to know where it is. And that is where our body and our emotions help us. So the US military has recognized this. Since 2013, they train 4 skills into their troops. The first thing they train people in is to use their intuition. We have this notion that intuition is soft or weak or inaccurate, but intuition is one of the highest ways we can use information. Data, facts, logic, all the things that we think are hard and concrete, data is the language of the past, and data is the language of the present. So data can only tell us what happened before us or what is happening now. If you think about your finances, you can look behind you to see how you spent your money. And you can look at your bank account right now to see what you have right now. But numbers will not tell us the future. We can make pretend and pretend that the numbers will tell us what will happen, but numbers and data cannot predict the future. They can forecast it. So it is an estimate based on assumptions of what we think will happen. So data is not great when it comes to the future. Intuition is the language of the present and the language of the future. It tells us how we're feeling right now. And as we gather inputs, we have tons of experiences and pattern recognition that emerges as one of the best prediction machines of what will happen in the future. We have a sense of the future. We have a feeling of the future. We don't know the future. In the United States military, they train folks to use their intuition. Why? Because intuition gathers way more information than data can. One thing that we believe that will never be replaced by AI in our lifetimes is understanding culture. Culture has so many variables, so many unknowns, so many inputs that it's just too much data for a machine to be able to understand culture. But we understand it very quickly. If I go to a college campus to test it out, I get a sense for how it is. I can feel like, do I like it? Do I not like it? Is it a fit? Is it not a fit? We can do this very quickly, intuitively. Or think about traveling to a different place than where you live. It could be a different state, a different country, a different continent. And quickly you get a sense for how things are. People seem to be busy, or they're moving fast, they're rude, or they're very smiley and warm and open-hearted. Quickly we get to understand that this is how the way things are here. You don't have to read a book, you don't have to analyze it, you can kind of just go with the flow and figure out in your body much more than what we think. So we should trust that our intuition can gather massive amounts of input, massive amounts of data, and make sense of it in an instant. This is something a computer cannot do right now. So in the field of battle, in the military, when things are happening very fast and there's a lot of sensory overload happening, one of the easiest ways to get information is through the senses, through the intuition. Getting in your head and analyzing things won't help you. The second skill that the US military trains its personnel on is creative thinking. It's all about how to do things differently, new. Take two different things that never been done before and smash them together. Again, when you're in the field of battle, you need to try things that haven't been tried before. You cannot just rely on a process, a book, a strategy. You need to be able to move in the moment to create something new. So creativity is an amazing skill to have because it allows us to embrace novel situations and match the speed of that novelty. So change is happening and we can match the speed of that change. And that is creative thinking. Third skill that's trained in the US military is self-awareness. It's all about understanding what's happening inside the self. So understanding how to regulate the body and the emotions. Navy SEALs practice box breathing. What is that? It's the ability to regulate one's breathing in combat so that your nervous system doesn't go into hyperdrive. It's vital that you remain calm. We hear this in sports where the more you're a professional, the more the game slows down. So you're actually able to process all the information at pace. To do this, one needs to understand how to regulate their body, how to regulate their emotions, how to regulate their thinking. If you go into a panic state, if you hyperventilate, then you're useless. You're not going to be supporting in the field of battle. Developing the skills of regulating oneself, of mastering oneself, are vital in everyday walks of life. Again, for some reason we developed this association that understanding one's feelings is like soft or weak, but it's one of our greatest strengths to be able to regulate that emotion, to take that emotion and use it for something productive, for something positive. And the military is doing that. They're training people on how to regulate their physiology, their emotions, their breathing, so that they can be the most effective instrument in the moment that it's required. And the last skill is social skills. Social skills is being able to work with other people. It is developing rapport, empathy, compassion with the person next to us. And it's a vital skill if you're working with people, and we all in some degree are working with people. No person is an island. You have to live in a society. Someone built your house, someone's providing your water and your internet, you drive on roads, you're employed by someone, or you have customers and clients. We're all in relationship with each other in all times. Even when you're alone, you're just taking a small pause from being in the fabric of society. We need to regain the skill of working with each other. It is not weak or soft to be coordinating, cooperating, and building social ties with one another. It is how we're supposed to operate. We're social beings. We operate in units, in tribes. We are supposed to be with each other. So imagine being out in war and everyone's acting incredibly selfishly, very individualistically. They don't know how to communicate with each other. They're constantly pissing everyone off. That is not a good teammate. That is not someone you want to have around. Building social skills, building the ability to coordinate and cooperate is a vital need for adaptive leadership because we're going to do it together. So where do we see this all coming together? One of my favorite examples is the movie Interstellar. In the movie, a group of scientists and astronauts go to look for a more hospitable planet. They go from system to system and eventually find a planet where a character played by Matt Damon called Dr. Mann is operating a station. The character played by Matt Damon, Dr. Mann, he leads a mutiny, he steals the ship, and he launches it into space. So then the characters played by Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway give chase to kind of get back to their ship. It's their only chance of getting home. So Dr. Mann, he is trying to dock the ship into its larger counterpart so he can have the fuel to go back to Earth. And he's getting all these announcements from the other two astronauts.
Inner hatch. I repeat, do not open the inner hatch. I repeat, do not.
And Dr. Mann ignores all of it. So he's a perfect example of not taking any feedback, not being attuned to the environment, having an idea that he's right and that he can do everything by himself, the all-smart figure moving selfishly through the world. And what happens to Dr. Mann? Doesn't dock right, there's not a lock on the ship, and it all explodes. For the rest of the astronauts, Cooper and Dr. Brand, their only chance of getting home has just been shot to shit. There's an explosion and the whole thing is careening through space wildly. And this is the most important moment. Cooper, who is played by Matthew McConaughey, exemplifies adaptive leadership. He sees the situation and he's instantly able to regulate himself, not going to panic or feel defeated. Instead, he knows that is their only chance of fulfilling their mission and getting home. So he does something that is really reckless, but he launches his own vessel towards this spiraling carnage. And the spiraling carnage is falling towards the planet, increasing the heat and starting to burn up. And yet Cooper knows that he can match the pace of change if he just gets close enough. So this thing is spinning, 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 and Cooper gets the ship right under it and he starts to spin and spin and spin. And when he starts to match the pace of change, match the pace of spinning, it's as if the two aren't moving at all. They're in a lock. They're in a beautiful dance. They're in cohesion. It's in this moment he can lock the two ships together and slow it down and save the mission. What did Cooper do? Well, he was a highly cooperative team member. He knew how to have social support and help people, and he wasn't selfish. He was very intuitive, so he had a lot of experience and was able to make decisions based off of that impulse and not overanalyze things. He had tremendous creative thinking to be able to move the ship into the rate that it was moving in. And he had that self-awareness. He knew how to regulate himself, so he didn't go into a panic, didn't go into a fear. Even when he's in that spiral and Dr. Brand passes out, you can see that Cooper is actually leaning in the opposite direction to hold himself awake against all the forces of gravity. This to me shows incredible self-awareness. He knows that physiologically his body will pass out due to the G-force that he is feeling. But if he can just counteract it even a bit, it gives him a little bit more time to right the ship. This is an amazing example of adapting to a dynamic situation, using one's skills, one's competence, to be able to carry out a goal. And so what I'm proposing is that this is one of the most important parts of leadership, to understand the situation and adapt to the situation. For us to be able to do that, we have to be tapped in, understand what's going on, and be able to regulate ourselves and then move out into the world so we can adapt and change as it is with us. When we do this, again, we can accomplish incredible things.